How do you make templates in Ableton 11? So for most, the default Ableton session is going to look like 2 audio tracks and 2 MIDI tracks with 2 sends, one being a reverb and one being a delay. Mine doesn't look like that because this is my new default session, and I'm going to show you how to do that today. Once you've done doing all the work, all you're going to do is go to File and then Save Live Set as a default set. This will then save it to a subfolder, which you can find here called templates. Right here is all the templates you can use. Once you click on one, it'll open a new session with everything that you've saved. It's important to know that you can make multiple templates for Ableton. You can make as many as you want. Personally, I would recommend spending some time and figuring out what genre do you produce often and what are some things you want to keep in mind or have in a session every time you work in that genre. I have a default Ableton one right here. Basically, it has a MIDI section for structure. So for example, I can add in a clip right here and call this intro, verse, change the color of it. The reason why I have this and I don't use locators is because if I'm working with like a vocalist, for example, and they're coming over to record, what I can do with this session is I can save another session in this same folder and then go to my current project and I can find it and I can pull out this exact same structure track and bring it into the new recording session. And now I have markers to indicate this is the intro, this is the verse, this is the chorus, this is the pre-chorus. So it basically allows you to move markers across different project sessions, which is super important, especially when it comes to tracking. Next one is key. This is usually where I put whatever key the song is in. For example, if it's in 12A, which I believe is 12A is D flat minor. This is the Camelot wheel, which is known for harmonic mixing, mainly for DJs, but I use it for music production as well because it's a lot easier to do key changes and a lot easier to adjust. And it's more math based, but it's a lot easier to keep in mind. So whatever key I'm in, I'll make sure to write that down just so I can reference it like, oh, I'm in this key. This is really important if you work in a lot of different sessions every day. Sometimes you forget, it's important to have it all in one spot. Ableton now has a scale default section. So if I go to D flat and I go to minor, it'll automatically set everything to be in the scale. If scale is not selected, all the notes that are in the scale will be highlighted in orange or whatever color the MIDI clip is. For example, if I change this to like orange, it'll be in that color. Most of the time though, I'll just press scale and I'll be good unless I'm doing any chromatic changes or whatnot. That's why I use for that. Make sure to always update your key. You never know. Sidechain trigger. This is literally what I do at the very end when I'm adjusting the sidechain mix for a track. I'll go back in, add a kick sample, and then I'll cut it just so it's the transient, and then I'll use that as the trigger for my sidechain mix. The sidechain trigger is going to be muted 90% of the time, and the sidechain mix is just basically anything that needs to be sidechained is going to this subchannel. This is a technique that a lot of dubstep and future bass producers use because when they're trying to shove everything down when the kick and the snare hit, they want to make sure that it's all running through the same sidechain, and that if you need to make changes, it's in one spot rather than 30 other places the sidechain thing could be. So that's why I have it all sent to one section. It's really the easiest and it just saves me time. But for here, I'll just, whatever the threshold and the attack and the release. But that's all preset in the template. Next, I just have instrument groups. So this is basically breaking it down to every song that I've made. I'll use, for example, drums, bass, synths, tonal, keys, vocal, and then FX. You can customize this as much as you want. I really don't think it's necessary to have everything laid out exactly. Obviously, if you want to have everything named correctly, like, oh, this is my 3 synth pads, my 3 synth leads, that's totally fine as well. I usually keep it pretty bare bones because I never know what I'm going to do for that particular session. So just keeping everything organized is important. For groups, I'm only using it for categorization. I'm not using it for bussing. Any bus things I'm going to do, I'll do it within the group. For example, if I'm working with drums and I wanted to bus all them, I'll make another one and just call it bus. Send the stuff to there. That way it's all still in the same group. That's just personally for me. I mean, most people, sometimes they'll just group their buses all in one group by themselves. That also works as well. So it really depends on what you want to do. I mean, this took me like 10 minutes to make. It's really simple. I have different templates for different genres that I make. For example, my K-pop template is a lot more built out because I make K-pop every day, and it's a lot easier to figure out what exactly you need if you have more experience making that genre. For hip hop, I might rename bass to just 808 because I might only be using 808s for my bass, and I'll have some more sections, divided on what I actually use. The template is made for you, and you should understand that you should never pay for a template. I don't really understand why people would do that. It's worth spending like an hour or two just figuring out what exactly you need, and then once you make changes, just save another template or rewrite the one you already made. That's all you really need to do. You know yourself the best, and it's important that you can dial in whatever template you want to what you want, because it'll save you time. It'll help you stay creative and motivated without getting discouraged when you're having to duplicate or build something from scratch every single time. Forgot to mention too, the returns I have for this project are short reverb, a long reverb, and a delay. I would go even even if I was going to build this out, I'd have 5. I'd have like a short, medium, and long reverb. Delays, I'd put the value. So I'd put 16th note, quarter note, and 8th note. I'd just have that and be done. If I'm really picky, I'll change the reverb and delay when I'm working in the session, but for the most part, the ones that I have set right now are fine. Hopefully that helps. If you haven't done it already, go spend some time, make some templates. You should have a template for every genre that you make on a daily basis because it'll save you a lot of time. Can't reinforce that enough. Thanks guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Check you guys out later. Peace out.